to infinity and beyond.
This is me. This is how I win.
Were you rushing or were you dragging? Answer!
You're a wizard, Harry.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you.
No, I am your father.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside the film room. Zach Owens here with Johnny Sobchak for a big award-winning episode. We are talking Mean Girls. That's not the awards, not yet. But we're also talking Emmys 2024. I guess Emmys in 2024, but for 2023. Recapping all of the winners, all of the good stuff that happened over at the Emmys. Big night for TV. Johnny, how are we feeling heading into this episode and all the good stuff we're going to be chatting and breaking down?
Yeah, it's exciting, Zach. Johnny here as always, and I think, well, the really silly thing about Emmys, to your point, is that they don't have it on an annual like calendar like all the other award shows basically do. They have their break off in like the middle of the year for some reason, which I don't really understand. So, like for example, The Bear was winning awards at the Golden Globes last weekend for season 2, which is, makes sense because it came out last year in 2023. But this Emmys, because the cutoff was before season 2 even came out and counting back towards season 1, is awarding for season 1. So it's very
also
strange.
This is the show that was supposed to happen in September, and then because of the strike, it got pushed, so that made it even weirder. But
yes, it feels a lot weirder now with that in mind, I think. So
I can see a lot of casual fans being like, why isn't Jamie Lee Curtis getting an award for guest actress? And it's like, that'll come next year, don't worry. Like, we're getting there.
Which feels like wild because, I mean, that show did come out last summer. So like the fact that we're waiting over a year for that award to happen is kind of silly. But I'm looking forward to it, though. I enjoy, as we all know, I think at this point, award season, I enjoy predicting. I enjoy, shows and movies that I love getting recognition and whatnot. So I think it's a fun time, and I'm looking forward to checking that out. And Critics' Choice tonight as well, which does award TV and film. So getting some more Oppenheimer love. I'm looking forward to that. But it's gonna be an interesting time. And then of course Mean Girls. It's kind of like, I feel like it's kind of the first semi-big movie of the year. Like it made over I think 30 million this weekend domestically. So I mean it's pretty decent for January, I would say.
And it's also just the only thing for people to go see, unless you're like straggling to go see like maybe Aquaman or something from the end of last year, Wonka, catching up with like, not like the big budget movies, but if you're seeing like some awards players that are still like in theaters. But if you're looking for something new, this is pretty much the only thing out there, because I know we talked Night Swim last week, and I don't think anybody's making their way out to theaters other than some real sickos to go see that. But Mean Girls is definitely one that hits on a lot of categories, like new generation fans of Renee Rapp, fans of the original movie in 2004, fans of like the musical, fans that don't know it's a musical and are showing up thinking it's just a Mean Girls reboot. But we'll get into some of that here in a minute. We're going to talk the Emmys at the end of the show. But before we dive in, make sure you are subscribed to the podcast. You can find us anywhere on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, YouTube, anywhere you can find a podcast, we are there. And make sure you're subscribed to the Rewind newsletter so that you get our newsletters, everything from the website to the podcast to giveaways, everything delivered straight to your inbox, so you can have it all in one location. But Johnny, I know I believe you were on the road yesterday making a big trip. Did that end up happening?
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I almost forgot about it, because no, it did not end up happening.
Oh, devastating.
I did opt out of it because I had so many different things that I felt like I needed to do. I couldn't really justify the amount of time I was going to dedicate to it. So,
Well, let's let the people know what it was so that they don't think we're just speaking in code over here. You
yeah.
were
So
going to Georgia, right?
yeah, so we're in North Carolina. I'm in like the southeast part of the state essentially. And on the like the western side of Georgia. This past weekend, nationwide, there was a re-release of Oppenheimer in IMAX, and in some places, obviously, very limited amounts, the 70 millimeter IMAX film. So I didn't get a chance last summer, obviously, not having it anywhere near us to go and see it in that format. I would have liked to had I been traveling or something like that. I couldn't really justify driving like 5+ hours to go do it at that point anyway. And so this weekend came up. They announced it last month. I was like, God, it's still like a 5 hour drive. Can I justify it? At that time, I was like, okay, fine. I'll get a ticket. It's like $20. If I go, I go. If I don't, it's a wash. Who cares? So I was really prepared to do it. And then yesterday morning, I put it in my phone to like make sure I was on time and everything. And I looked at the route and I knew with like the weather, obviously, in lots of parts of the country has not been great. There's been storms, tornadoes, blizzards, flood warnings, all that good stuff. And so I looked at it and I saw that it was really windy. I saw that there was like a chance of rain, a flood warning. It was like 5.5 hours, like with all things considered. And I was just like, it was like 7 a.m. on my day off on a long weekend. And I was like, God, I
for a movie
like,
you've seen an amazing movie, but a movie you've seen 7 times. I know this would
and I
be
have the
a new
4K.
format, like,
Yeah.
but
I was just
still,
like, I couldn't. Yeah, no, you're right. It was just when I saw that though at that time of day, like about to go do it, it was just like a switch like flipped in my brain, and I was like, I literally just cannot do it. So I chickened out, I guess, but I
I don't
trust at
think
some
many
point.
people can blame you for that. That's quite the commitment to go see.
Yeah.
I mean, and then when you factor in the fact that it's a 3 hour movie plus previews, you're 3.5 hours at the theater, 5 hours driving, 5 hours back. Like that is a full day commitment right there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So in my mind, sounded better. In practice, I did not give it a go. So I trust. I'm optimistic at some point that maybe I'll get a chance to see it in that format. So we'll see. But that's
It was
that's this long story short there, I guess.
it was about to be a trend, I guess, because I know that you're no stranger to driving long distances for movies in select formats, because back in the pandemic you drove to Virginia, right, to go see
Yes.
Tenet,
4 hours each way.
to go see Tenet,
Now,
and
to
that
be
was when it was
fair,
only playing. And then you did the Dune one when they had the special preview
yes.
in the theater. That was also in Atlanta, right? So you're
That
ready
yeah.
to hit the road and put some miles down to check out these movies.
That is very true. And I will say that was really strange. Like the difference with those is that Tenet, I had not stepped foot in a movie theater in 6 months when that movie came out. And it was a brand new movie from Christopher Nolan. Hadn't seen it yet. So I could kind of justify it a little bit more in that regard. It wasn't as long as of a drive. The Atlanta one with the Dune preview. Okay, so it was Dune. Obviously, I gotta go. Like I could not miss it, even though it was only like a 15 or 20 minute like preview kind of event. It did give me the opportunity to see it and write about it, post it on the website, and talk to people on Twitter about it. So I thought that was worthwhile. Plus, a great, I guess, fellow Dune fanatic that I met on Discord. He was willing to put me up for the night as well, if you recall. So that was extremely kind and convenient, for me to be able to not have to drive back the same day. So that all kind of worked out a little differently. I was not going to pay for a hotel or something to go see Oppenheimer again. So, but yeah, I guess that's just a fun kind of, it's just a thing that keeps coming up for me, as you noted there, Zach.
Well, let's transition over from what we didn't watch to what we did end up watching this past week. For me, I know obviously on the movie front, we're going to be talking about Mean Girls. Johnny, you have not seen that yet, I don't believe. So that'll just be me. But check that out. And then I need to shout out a movie. We're not doing a full review. Maybe we'll work it into like a later podcast, but Self-Reliance on Hulu. This movie came out on Friday. It's a direct to Hulu. It was at Sundance last year. South by Southwest last year, I'm pretty sure. So it's been, I don't know, 9 months, 10 months since it debuted and then was acquired by Hulu, and they put it out. It was Hulu and Neon. But for all the New Girl fans out there, it's Jake Johnson's directorial debut. I know that's New Girl fans, Spider-Verse fans, whatever, what have you. Obviously, he's known for Nick Miller on New Girl, but written and directed by him. It stars himself and Anna Kendrick. Andy Samberg is in there. But it's really good. I was very impressed by it. It's the premise is that it's this man who he's just like walking down the street, and then a limo pulls up. Andy Samberg's in the back, and he's like, "Hey, are you whatever your name is?" Like, gets in the limo with him and takes him to this like random location where he meets these like Scandinavian guys, and they're like, "You have been selected to be a participant on the dark web's biggest like underground show." And basically you sign up and you have 30 days to stay alive, and if you do, you win $1 million. And there are people hunting you, but the catch is like they can't kill you unless like if you're with another person. So he's like trying to like find people to stay with. He ends up meeting up with Anna Kendrick, who's also playing the game, and like they spend their time together. So it has like sort of like a Palm Springs feel to it, just in like the humor and like the relationship between them two being similar to like a Kristen Milioti and Andy Samberg, but then it's like got a very much like Nick Miller sense of humor to like tie into his New Girl character. But it was delightful. It was fun. It was like genuinely had, it's not a horror movie by any sense, but like with just like the suspense of them being hunted, there are a few like good scares in there. But I was really impressed. That was like a 3.5, borderline 4-star for me. I think I have it at like 77 out of 100. So to be a movie like in the midst of January where we've been talking about theatrically not seeing a ton of good stuff, that was a good one to find on streaming, and I definitely recommend it for anyone out there to check out if you're in need of a new movie. But that includes you, Johnny. I think you might like it because you like Palm Springs, right?
I did like Palm Springs, yeah. So, and the premise I think sounds pretty fun. Definitely sounds like a South by Southwest movie. So yeah, no, I mean, having Hulu and whatnot, I will probably check it out. I mean, it is such a down period right now in terms of movies, at least movies that like have my interest. So we'll see how desperate I become here in the next.
Let me tell you the best part though. It's a crisp 89 minutes.
Oof,
man, talk about a low,
nice.
low risk, high reward. You're not committing 3 hours. You're not driving 5 hours to go see it. Turn on Hulu, 89 minutes, you're in and out. And it was a good fun time. But definitely would recommend that. Again, saw Mean Girls. I rewatched The Iron Claw, which is not a good fun time. Still absolute devastation. Rebecca hadn't seen it, so we watched it
Wow.
with the A24 screener, so got to check it out at home, but was just like devastated. It was funny because her brothers we were hanging out with them. She has 2 younger brothers, and both of them had gone to see it together, and then like they're not particularly emotional, but they were both like, yeah, we cried during it. And then Rebecca's like, okay, I have to see this movie. Like, I don't know, like what could make my brothers do that? She knew that I had cried in it already. And so she was definitely into it and moved by it, and was a big fan. So love to watch that and go through all that pain again. And then on the TV side for me, nothing new. Still working my way through the same titles. True Detective season 1. Got to catch up before diving into season 4 that comes out this weekend. Masters of the Air, checking out screeners there still. One Tree Hill, Percy Jackson, and then Colin from Accounts. So didn't make much progress on the TV front. But Johnny, what about you? What's been taking up your time?
I wish I could tell you, Zach. It seems like I have not done anything in the last week, other than work and some other activities. So the main thing, my main priority this last week really was finishing Masters of the Air, the screeners that we've received from Apple, which is awesome. The show comes out later this month, but I was able to finally wrap that up after it took quite a while to get through it all because just with the holidays and everything, but it was nice to get that finally off my list. I really had been wanting to finish For All Mankind season 4 and The Curse. Those had their season finales released on Friday. just a couple days ago as of this recording. But with my schedule, Reagan's schedule, haven't been able to sit down together and watch either. I'm hoping tonight that we can get those done because I've really been trying to avoid like spoilers or like hearing too much about it. The good news though, I will say is that
I haven't.
Yeah.
I'm still on like episode 5 or something of The Curse. But I haven't seen spoilers, but I've seen like reactions to The Curse.
Yeah.
And like I know like Connor was talking about it in our group chat. Like it just seems like so like I don't even know what to expect, but the way they're talking about it is like be prepared. So
sounds like a dream to me. Especially all the Twin Peaks comparisons. I'm absolutely like eating that up. And that's I was about to say that's the good thing is that it sounds like for both of these finales, I've heard nothing but high praise and lots of good things, non-spoilery so far. So hoping to get those done. But then outside of that, haven't seen any new movies. Still haven't seen my first movie of 2024 yet. I'm holding out. I'm not really sure what that's going to be at this point. I don't have anything like picked out on the calendar as of yet necessarily, but I did rewatch Friday night with Reagan, her like younger sisters. They had never seen the original Willy Wonka. So I took them to see Wonka, the new one, over the holidays, and that was a really good time. We all enjoyed it, but we thought it would be a good chance to go ahead and revisit that. I have the 4K. It as a movie, that movie just holds up really well. The 4K is beautiful, you know, obviously all the colors and whatnot. And I really, really watched that movie like obsessively when I was a kid. I really enjoyed it. So I always get a kick out of like going back and watching older movies. I hadn't seen that one in a couple of years. And like when I did watch it a couple of years ago, that was the first time I'd seen it literally since I was a kid, probably. So yeah, if no one's seen that in a while, like it's really worth revisiting, I think, because it really does hold up. And I think the humor is definitely kind of more aimed at adults. So if you saw it when you were a kid, you could probably appreciate it more so, I would say, as a grown up.
I feel like I don't know if I've seen I've definitely seen like parts of it as a child. I feel like I can't confirm or deny whether I've seen it all the way through it. Definitely not like as an adult at least, but I was always in on the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, not Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but the Johnny Depp version with the whole squad there and all the musical numbers. That was and who Count Dooku, Christopher, what's his name? Is it Christopher Lloyd?
No, Christopher.
What's his name?
Why am I blank? Christopher Lloyd's from Back to the Future.
Right.
Christopher
was also Christopher Lloyd was also in Christopher Lee, but Christopher Lloyd was also in Self-Reliance. So another connection there. But man, what a journey to find that name. But good. I'm glad you guys revisited that. And you said did they enjoy it as much as what were their thoughts on that compared to Wonka?
I didn't we didn't discuss like comparing it so much, but they did like it. I think like I said, that one's a little bit more like, I mean, they're not like super young. They're like 12 and 14. So but I think they probably preferred like the more light kind of poppy feel of the newer one. Whereas I feel like I said, it is really more aimed at adults, the original, I feel like. Especially that first half before they even get to the Chocolate Factory. Like it's really just a lot of talking and like fun, like satire, like skits almost. So I think that can be a little difficult to get through, but they did like it. So that was good.
Awesome. Well, if that's all we've been watching, let's get to the main event. Well, one of the main events here and talk some Mean Girls. This is, like Johnny said, the first big movie of the year. Was originally a Paramount Plus, like direct to Paramount Plus movie, and then they pulled a fast one, switched it up to make it theatrical. And like you said, it is doing pretty well. So that seems to be paying off for Paramount. But it is a movie adaptation of the Broadway musical, which is based on the 2004 film, which is also based on a book. All of those written by Tina Fey, not the original book. She adapted from the book to make the first movie, then made the musical, and is now written and acting in the adaptation of that. So I know there's a meme that's been circulating. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like the screen grab from 30 Rock where Jenna is like, oh, I won the award for best actress in a music or in a movie based on a musical based on a movie. And obviously Tina Fey is like known for 30 Rock. So I feel like this is all the plan the entire time. This is a mastermind of a plot. But obviously the 2004 movie. What are your thoughts, Johnny, on the 2004 movie? Have you seen it? Do you have feelings about it? Is there a connection?
I watched it when I was a kid, of course.
Mhm.
Kind of, I quote unquote grew up with Mean Girls. I was never like a huge fan. Like it wasn't a movie I like rewatched, or
Right.
anything like that. But I always thought it was a fun, good time. I just don't have like that kind of cult fandom, I guess, personally around it. So when news came out that they were making this movie, I was just like, huh, that's kind of interesting. Like, I wonder how that's gonna look or how that's gonna work. But I
Right.
was never like, oh no, they shouldn't be doing that, or I wasn't like, oh my God, I can't wait to see that.
Right. I'm very much the same. I saw the movie multiple times as like throughout my life, but I was never like a diehard Mean Girls fan. It was never like a defining movie of my lifetime. Um, but it was interesting because we went to so Rebecca came with me to see it, and we were at the screening in Charlotte that was like Tuesday night before it released on Thursday evening. But it was like I couldn't tell. It wasn't like one of the ones that's open to like the general public where you just like sign up for a ticket and can come. Um, but there were lots of people there, so it seemed like maybe beyond just press, there were like invited guests. But there were a lot of girls, women dressed up in like pink jumpsuits, like almost recycled Barbie outfits. So I was like, okay, so this definitely has like an audience of like people who were obsessed with the 2004 movie as like kids, teenagers, and are now like revisiting this. But as we were leaving the theater, a lot of people were like sharing their little thoughts with the like people that put on the screening.
Yeah.
And not to my surprise, a lot of people were saying, I never knew it was going to be a musical.
Oh boy.
Because like despite this being the Mean Girls musical, like it was the Broadway musical, and this is the adaptation that takes that from the stage to the screen. The same thing with Wonka that we were just talking about. Like, though it's not advertised, there has been like articles written that are revealing that like the studios know people don't like musicals, and so they're like trying to trick them with marketing with trailers that don't make it look like a musical, and then they just show up and surprise, gotcha. So I did in fact know this was a musical going in. But let me lay the groundwork for you. So the cast here, we've got Angourie Rice, we've got Renee Rapp, Auli'i Cravalho, Jaquel Spivey, Avantika, BB Wood, Christopher Briney, Jenna Fisher, and Busy Phillips. Tina Fey's in there as well. Tim Meadows, both of those being original cast members. It's currently at a 70% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 67% audience score. For me, this was like a right down the middle 3-star, 60 out of 100. And I feel like without having the, like we were just talking about, the connection to Mean Girls or like the passionate fandom, I feel like I had like a very, like that's probably about my ceiling. Like I had a lot of fun with this. I enjoyed it. I don't think I could have ever seen a way in which this was like higher than a 3 out of 5. I think that was just what the range for this movie was. It could have definitely been worse, but I don't think there's a scenario in which I go in and I'm blown away and give this a 4 or 4.5 out of 5. But plot, I mean, this is Mean Girls through and through. If you've seen the 2004 movie, if you have any familiarity with it, it's the exact same. I guess I'll still lay it down, but basically Katie Heron, that's Angourie Rice. She is a new student who comes to this school. She's been living in Africa with her mother and, comes to America. She's like outside of Chicago in this public school. And it's like, okay, I was on the plains of Africa, but now this is the real jungle here in school. She's slowly infiltrates a group of popular girls called the Plastics. Obviously, it's run by Regina George. That's Renee Rapp. And her minions, Gretchen and Karen, BB Wood and Avantika. But Katie also has a separate friend group, her true friends, it seems, which are Janice and Damien, Auli'i Cravalho and Jaquel Spivey. And they kind of like get her to infiltrate the plastics in an attempt to bring down Regina George. Along the way, Katie falls in love with Regina's ex-boyfriend, Aaron Samuels, played by Christopher Briney, which kind of leaves her in the middle of, am I going to take down Regina? Do I actually like Regina? Do I like my relationship with Aaron more? And it's kind of just a very messy high school drama, but with musical numbers mixed in. So literally everything is the exact same. I think this is a very fun like refresh on the original. I don't want to call it a retelling. I don't want to call it a reboot. It's honestly just like a straight up remake plus music, because there's so much that's the same. The plot, the characters, a lot of the dialogue is very much like identical. You know, some of those like iconic lines of like, raise your hand if you've been personally victimized, or like the like, oh, he's almost too gay to function, like those sort of things. It has a very much like has a feeling of like the Bart Simpson meme of like, say the line, and then they say it and everybody freaks out. So like again, depends on your audience, depends on your connection to it. For me, I was kind of like eye rolling a little bit at that, because it's just like, we know like it's the same thing versus like putting a new spin on it other than just having music. But then again, like people were eating it up, knowing that that is like your audience of the diehard fans, the people that quote this in their regular life and want to hear it all over again. For me going in, again, feel free to hop in at any point with any questions, Johnny, because I have my notes here. I'm rambling, so feel free to stop me. But for me going in, I had not listened to any of the music. I had never seen the stage production. So didn't have any familiarity with what to expect. Some of the songs, like so this
Wait,
is not
you had never seen or like listened to the musical version of it at all?
No. Why you said that with such judgment in
mean,
your voice?
you're definitely more of like you're more of the like, I don't know, Broadway musical oriented of the two of us, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't. I usually don't like. I think that's fair, but I also don't really like listen to Broadway unless I've seen the show. Like I'll usually like go into a show, like see it, and then like listen to the soundtrack afterwards and like become obsessed with something. But I'm not just like listening to new music with new like Broadway productions without having seen them. And that, since I hadn't seen this, I did not. But
it's not quite Hamilton, is it?
No, it is not. The lyricism is no Lin-Manuel Miranda. But so I guess this is not necessarily a critique of the movie, more so the music that they're adapting. Like some of the music is good, some of the songs are better than others, some of them are a bit of a flop. But pretty much all the lyrics are very silly. So, you know, don't be looking for, and I was also reading an interview with the two directors of this movie, and they were talking about like how they went about adapting it, because there are certain songs from Broadway that didn't make the cut into the movie. And they were basically like, this song, I don't remember what it's called, is like, it was such a great like Broadway ballad and like such a profound like moment on the stage, but it doesn't translate and like move the story forward in the movie. And they're like, we want to play, because of the whole like people hate musicals thing, they're like, we want to, you know, make this more of a pop musical, have it be like the more like familiar style of music that pop fans would be more engaged with. So maybe that's why all of them are silly as well. But as far as like the movie and the performances of the songs, I feel like a lot of the hit or miss depends on who's performing, who's singing, because you know, Renee Rapp is the star of this. She played Regina George on Broadway, and that was kind of her big explosive moment. And is now, you know, she's got TV shows. She has her own music career, is starring in this movie. She's like the draw here, and she's fantastic. She plays the character extremely well. She was born to play Regina George because she has this like confidence and cockiness and like the perfect like mean girl energy to be like the leader of the pack, the leader of the plastics. Her no issues with any of her songs, any of her vocals. But the real star, I will say, beyond Regina, is Ali Cravajo. Obviously, she is the voice and singer behind Moana. So she's definitely, like, we all know she's got the pipes, and she even like eats up. I don't think she ever sings with Renee Rapp. None of their songs cross over, but Ali has like a couple solos, and she just like eats everybody up. She is like the best voice in this entire production, pretty much as expected. Unfortunately for the movie, Katie is the main character. Angry Rice, love her from The Nice Guys, Ryan Gosling's daughter in The Nice Guys. She can't really sing, and it's kind of hard to like be the main character of a musical and not be able to sing. So I know I've seen like TikToks going around of people like playing the songs that she sings or like listening to it, and it seems to be like a general consensus. So like she's fine as Katie, but like it's hard to look past in a musical not really being able to
How
sing.
did they end up casting her if she can't like sing that?
That's the thing. I'm curious. I don't know like what the process was, but like a lot of the like feedback,
like she's not that famous where like you would be like, oh, we gotta
it's
get
not like,
her in
hell
here
yeah,
to
we got
draw
angry
in.
we got angry to star in this and let's build around her. But people, like, the general consensus is like, let's cast people who can sing for musicals and then like do the rest, because there are certainly plenty of other people out there that are the double threat of actor and singer that could maybe fit this better.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer, and kind of takes down, obviously, like, Lindsay Lohan's so iconic as Katie that you love that character, and it doesn't really hit the same, at least for me, with like bonding and being behind. Like in this, I'm more interested in Regina because I like Renee Rapp because she's so fantastic in this role, or even in Janice because Ali is like so compelling on screen. Last thing about the music, I think this is also part of the like translating it to a modern audience and not making it Broadway. It's not like a traditional musical in the sense of like, I'm trying to think like Les Mis, the movie, or I don't even know. Like I'm trying to think what movie musicals I've seen recently. But like, it's not like, oh, we're singing and advancing the plot and like telling my inner monologue through song. It's not like big production, like everybody's dancing in the street sort of thing. Like there are like big dance numbers and stuff, but it's like all feels very music video-y. If
that's what it looked like. I have seen I've seen stuff
like,
on social media.
It's kind of like we are like doing a scene, stop, have a song, and then continue,
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem to have that innate like whimsical element to it where it's like a musical.
Even Willy Wonka or Wonka, like,
just exactly, Wonka. I mean, like, and that's, I mean, Wonka has its own like, it's a different type of story and like genre, obviously, but like even just a general musical, like even like a La La Land, for example, which is set in a contemporary setting and isn't have like a fantasy element to it. Musicals are innately fantasy, so like I feel like you have to really lean into that in terms of like how that helps you tell the story. And I feel like if you're not, like, it defeats the purpose of like having a musical to me.
Yeah, I like there's definitely like that fantasy you're talking about, like that is incorporated into some of these numbers where it's like there's one where when Katie first arrives to high school, it's like comparing it to like a jungle and like everybody's like pretending to be animals and stuff, and like there's like that fantasy element.
Is it more fantasy than the original movie where they also do something like that, where they played the jungle bit?
I guess maybe because it's extended into like a full like 5-minute musical number, maybe.
Okay.
but it's not like I don't know. It's just very distinct of like even the way that it's shot, like the like the aspect ratio changes and like the color grading changes, like when they go to like musical mode versus like when they come back to just like regular movie scenes. So it's like a very distinct, like, okay, dance break, like we're gonna do this and then like we're gonna get back to the movie itself. So it kind of like feels like stop and go, as far, it's not like La La Land, for example, where like everything just obviously that's like the peak of like movie musicals to compare stuff to currently, but like where things just like flow continuously throughout. It's like it's not the pacing has like, okay, well, now we're gonna stop and sing a song, then we're gonna keep going. But again, hit or miss as far as the music goes. There's definitely like fun musical numbers within everything, but it's just like not consistent enough, I guess. A couple of final thoughts on some of the characters here. Jaquel Spivey, I don't think I'd ever seen him in anything before. He's Damien, and is very funny. I will say, like, a lot of the jokes in the trailer came across as sort of cringy. Specifically his when he's like, I don't know if you remember, I've seen this trailer so many times going to the movies. But they're like in French class and they have to pick a French name, and he's like, Celine Dion, Beyonce, and I'm just like I'm waiting to watch whatever movie, and I'm like rolling my eyes through that. That's still like silly in the movie, but like there's so many other lines that he has, that Damien has, that are really actually like good humor. And not just him, but like the entire movie has some good jokes throughout it. So love to see that, and that it wasn't just like what the trailer presented. Another critique, justice for Karen. This is the character that Amanda Seyfried plays back in the original, and Avantika plays her here. I don't know if I had never really seen her in much. She's in 2 episodes of Sex Lives of College Girls, which Renee Rapp is also in. But she is like hysterical, extremely talented, good singer. But the character of Karen is like has never been a smart character. It's the like, I'm a sexy mouse, duh. Like my boobs can feel or tell me what the weather is. Like there's nothing smart about her. But they made her too dumb here, where it was almost like too ditzy, too silly, that it became silly instead of like, oh, we're laughing at her because she's dumb, haha. But it was like eye rolling almost of like, come on, like she's not that dumb, like come on. So justice for Karen, justice for Avantika. Want to see release the Karen cut so that we can see a better role for her. She's very fun in like what she does do. She has a really good dance number, and I couldn't tell you what the song is called. It's at the Halloween party. But overall, I feel like, I know you said you didn't have any strong feelings about like whether they should or shouldn't make this. Like, I don't think it necessarily needed to exist. I still feel that way. But it's fun. I think if you're a big fan of Mean Girls, the original, you're going to love it. If you're an average fan, I think it's still fun enough that, you know, you have that familiarity. You're going to go see it, have a good time with it. Definitely some really talented people in it, some good performances. So I'm excited that it's having a good run at the box office. January obviously is a downtime, so to see something that comes out and gets people's attention to start the year, can't be upset with that. So I'm a fan. 3 out of 5, 60 out of 100 for me. It's a good way to start the year.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, Zach. I think you sum it up pretty well. As someone who hasn't seen it and generally doesn't have interest in seeing it, I still think that it sounds like there's some merit to it. And I'm glad people seem to be enjoying it for the most part, at least based on audience and what I'm seeing on social media. And all.
So there you have it. Mean Girls, that's a wrap. Let's move on to some TV talk, namely the biggest TV talk after the Emmys. So the 2023 Emmys, which take place in 2024, due to the strike, the delays, all that good stuff, finally happened. And we are here to recap and break down and react to all of the biggest stuff. But I will say, Johnny, there's not a ton of like storylines, I wouldn't say, coming out of this, especially with like the way that the season was going. I know it's kind of confusing because, like we were saying, the Bear was winning Critics' Choice Awards and Golden Globes for season 2 in the weeks like leading up to this, and then so it's not a surprise to see the Bear continue to win. It's just winning for something different, being season 1. But on the drama side, like Succession, all the way, continuing through. But that was the same old here. At the Emmys, the Bear won big on the comedy side, Succession won big on the drama side. What were your thoughts as you were following along throughout the night? I mean, obviously this is outside of the awards, this is a TV production as well. And for me, I thought this was like a pretty, finished up at 11 o'clock on the dot. We were moving and grooving through this whole thing. The pacing was was good. The celebration of it felt like an actual like genuine celebration of TV where people like knew what they were talking about. We had some good, reunions, anniversary type stuff. But what were your thoughts on the whole thing last night?
Yeah, I agree, Zach. I didn't watch every single category. I was going back and forth. There's playoff football on, of course, so that was a factor. But I thought I was very impressed with what I saw in terms of the actual production and the show itself. I agree with you. I think the care and the respect paid toward classic shows and classic actors, I thought was great. I love the different segments they did with the sets kind of being recreated and bringing some cast members on, for that. I thought that the storytelling, you'd have like Arsenio Hall, for example, coming out and giving a story about like kind of how he came up. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. Is this like a tribute? Like, what's going on here? And then it was just him introducing a category. Like, I was like, wow, that was really, like, really well done. And as far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think every single category was announced and presented like on stage, right?
They did 27 throughout the 3 hour show, which
that is so impressive.
I remember we weren't even 90 minutes in and they'd already knocked out 14. So they
that's incredible.
They had to add in some of the, more like the in memoriam section, some more commentary, reunion type stuff, all in that second half a little bit more. But no, it was, as far as like the demonstration, the role model of what these award shows can be, as far as, it doesn't have to be 4 hours. It doesn't have to go overtime. Like it was a really good example of how you should do these shows. Anthony Anderson was the host, and I feel like there wasn't anything like, hit or miss from him. I don't think. I feel like he was serviceable and welcomed the show. I think the angle of it as a whole was not like, he didn't come out and do like we've got Brad Pitt over here and we've got Jason Sudeikis, look who showed up, like that sort of like the usual monologue, which can be good or bad. I know, like, we just saw the John Mulaney one at the Governor's Awards for the Oscars, that he had a great opening monologue, versus Joe Coy at the Golden Globes did not have a very great monologue. But it's hit or miss. But I feel like the way that this was set up to be, like, his monologue, his opening was all about like the celebration and history of television and whatnot. So that was like a good, respectful way to get this thing started, but it didn't really have any like Anthony Anderson moments, which like I'm fine with or without, because we were able to like you said, get all these awards in and out and focus on that. So yeah, I thought,
in my opinion, the host is not supposed to be the star of the show. Like the host of an award show should be the steward for the evening, for all the awards to be done, all the people that are being honored at the ceremony, whoever is running it. And that's one thing that I haven't enjoyed with Jimmy Kimmel hosting the Oscars, multiple times in the last, half decade or decade, is he's very much about, I mean, he hosts a talk show, obviously a late night show. I don't know, Anthony Anderson, to my knowledge, does not.
He hosts a new game show on Fox.
Oh God. Well, that's a whole different can of worms. But my point being is that Jimmy Kimmel is very much like, I'm sitting up here cracking jokes, just talking to the camera, and like
he gives a monologue every night.
I'm not interested in that whatsoever. Don't make it about you. Don't try to like overperform like your role. Just do the damn thing and let's keep it moving. And I think that just is a testament to, again, the Emmys, the production, the direction, and how they were able to just it seemed, to my eye anyway, and not, again, watching it from beginning to end, very swiftly and efficiently and respectfully get everything accomplished. And I thought it was just really, really well done overall. I think that helped because, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think I totally agree with all of that. I think the two misses for me, and I don't know if you caught these because if you were in and out, but it
I
was
probably did not.
the like I said, Anthony Anderson has a new show that he hosts with his mom, and so part of the bit here was like his mom was the official. She was like at the Emmys as the official. I think he called her like the timekeeper or something. Basically, she was like in the crowd and was responsible for, there was no like playoff music for when someone's speech went too long. It was up to her to like come in and judge, like, okay, wrap it up. And like they introduced that and it seemed like a bit. And then um oh, what's her name? Jennifer Coolidge won for White Lotus. She was actually giving her speech, and then you hear like wrap it up, like from off screen you hear that, and like I couldn't tell if it was a joke or not, and then it got very awkward, and it seemed like they were like intending for her to legitimately do it, and it like didn't go over well. So I think they probably like toned that down for the rest of the night, which was definitely for the best. And then one person made a reference to it, like, I've got Anthony Anderson's mom right here, I can't have her cut me off, so got to make this quick, when they were like giving their speech. But I think, like you were saying about the main character thing, like if we don't need the host to be the main character, we definitely don't need the host's mom to be the main character. Let the person who just won the award, thank their family, thank their cast and crew.
Thank you for catching me up on that, because I did not see anything about that.
it was weird, and then it seemed like they very quickly realized, like, yeah, this is not the move. So they pivoted away from that. But the only other thing was, again, I don't know if you saw, there was like one little montage that was it was like the 75 greatest moments in television over the, celebrating like the 75th Emmys. And so I guess the Academy had put together like a list of 75 moments. So they did like a little video teaser, and it's like Ellen saying she's gay on TV, and the finale of The Sopranos, and then like a clip of 9/11. And it was just like, what the hell? Like, read the room, guys. Even if that is in your like extended list, like maybe don't put that on the award show. But it just felt very weird to be like, for multiple reasons, but like to have it next to like Ellen saying I'm gay is like, are these equally important? And then also like just the perspective of like 9/11, bad thing, but good TV. Like that's how it came across. And I saw plenty of memes and jokes about it on Twitter. So it seemed like I was not the only one that was kind of off put by that, but otherwise a pretty smooth production, I'd say.
Yeah, I did see a couple of random tweets. Like I think you sent one, and I was just kind of like,
without context, you probably had no idea.
Yeah, super flummoxed by that. So hearing that in context is more insane, obviously. But yeah, okay. So apart from those two very strange decisions, I would say yes. Overall, they did a good job. And I think, as you pointed out at the start, the big storylines, really, if you want to call it that, were the fact that these two big shows in comedy and drama, respectively, The Bear and Succession, really pretty much cleaned up. Like they had 16 wins between them. That's a lot, obviously, and now not all of that was televised. If I'm thinking,
some of the, I think The Bear had 6 last night. And then some from the creative Emmys, which were last week, but to total up 10.
That's pretty impressive. And yeah, I mean, the fact that basically a dozen awards were between two shows out of a show with, as many categories as you mentioned. I think, you got to keep people kind of engaged with the show when you're seeing the same show win over and over, obviously. And I think to their benefit, though, and if you're running the show properly and directing it well, giving space and room for those speeches to breathe and for those segments to transition, fluidly, I think helps a lot. Because if you have great actors giving great speeches, or great, writers or directors giving speeches, that is part of also why people want to watch. And you get moments out of that. You have Pedro Pascal. He had that really funny kind of viral clip of him talking about Kieran Culkin beating the shit out of him.
And
That
there was a
was
good
really
play
funny.
in with, because Kieran Culkin had said it. I guess it was at the Globes, and he was like, "Suck it, Pedro," when he won and beat him
Mhm.
in the same category. So it was a good callback.
Yeah, exactly. So they did a good job, I think. It just felt the energy overall, I think. Um, it, it was kind of it was floated between these two beloved shows winning so much. And I think people like to see that, obviously, if they really love a show, seeing those wins. But I think just overall the energy of the speeches and again how the show was directed, I think really made it a success. And obviously we love The Bear, we love Succession. We're
It's so
biased
weird because
probably,
I'm like,
but
it's like you said, we love these shows, and like I'm very pleased to see them all get these wins, very well deserved. But then at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, I know Io's gonna win this one, I know Evan's gonna win this one, I
yeah.
know Jeremy's gonna win this one. So like the surprise, like as a someone who's like so invested in award season, like the two of us, where you're following up with like predictions
Mhm.
and everything, like it's fun when
Yeah.
there is like something that is a little less predictable, that you're like there is a tight race, you don't know who it's going to go, but pretty much everything last night was telegraphed
Mhm.
for weeks in advance.
And also it hurts because I think the fact that this was so close to the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice, when it usually wouldn't be, it would be in
Right, this would
September.
usually be leading the season
Yeah,
completely far away.
you really didn't have much mystery because of these other precursor shows. Okay, Kieran Culkin's won 2 awards already. Is obviously he's going to win the third one. Sarah Snook's won 2 already. She's obviously going to win again. And same with the Bear, cast. So it was just, as you just pointed out, like just that date issue and the proximity to one another, I think hampered it more so than it would in another year, maybe. Um, but I guess the good thing for at least for the drama category is that Succession is done. So, you know, after this ceremony, it's going to be much more wide open. I would think in all those different categories, which will be
And
probably a bit refreshing.
it's exciting because at the creative Emmys before this, like The Last of Us had 8 wins, I think.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
So obviously like HBO is just reloading, but like
Oh yeah.
if we get season 2 for the next Emmys cycle, then there could be something. I don't. It probably won't be this next Emmys cycle, but maybe
Next
the
year.
following
Yeah.
year. But like they can just step right in and pick up the slack there. But I saw a tweet that was like the funniest thing possible that the Bear could do, because obviously a lot of the discourse about the Bear is casual viewers being like, what, the Bears winning comedy? Like I didn't realize, like, how is this a comedy? That's like a lot of the dialogue of people who just turned on the Emmys last night. And like either way, you can talk about it either way of, whether you think it's a comedy or not, but that's what the category that it's in. But anyway, this tweet was
Yeah.
saying that the funniest thing that the Bear could do would be to sweep comedy this year, and then now that Succession's
Switch to
gone,
drama.
switch to drama next year. So
It could very well sweep, I think, even in drama. So I mean, it's tough. It's a weird, and I don't know. You may know more than I do, Zach. I know obviously when it comes to like acting categories, they're self-elected, so the actors choose how they want to be classified, supporting or lead, for example.
mhm.
Do the shows, do the producers, like, or networks get to choose and elect what they want to go under, or how is that determined? Do you know?
I'm not entirely sure. I think
I would
at some
imagine
point,
it's they choose, but I don't know.
I think there's also some element of like the runtime. Because you know how
That's
it's like
weird.
traditionally it's like a drama is like 40 minutes or an hour, like in traditional television, and then a comedy is like a 30-minute show.
Yeah,
And like The Bear has some episodes that are longer, but I may be completely off here, but I feel like I read something at some point in the
it could be.
discourse
Yeah,
about that playing a part in it. But with the way TV is so different now, and streaming, and basically having
yeah.
shows that are movies, is if that is still a determining factor, I feel like that needs to be adjusted. But again, I'm pulling from like the depths of my memory, so someone who's listening, if you know, correct me please. But I think also, speaking of shows that are movies and limited series and whatnot, I have not watched Beef, but I don't know if you have. But it was
I
a
have
huge
not.
night for Beef as well. But because I know we're just talking about The Bear and Succession, because those are the ones we know and love. But Beef, as far as comedy, drama, those are already handled. Limited series, no surprises there either, because Beef swept
Nope.
the the limited series. It got the leading actor and actress, and then the supporting actor and actress had a little bit of a change up with Manhunt and My King. This was my happiest win because I knew it's different because I knew all the other ones were going to happen for Succession and The Bear. So the win that made me the happiest was Paul Walter Hauser winning for Blackbird for supporting actor in a limited series, because that show was so damn good. And it was so long ago at this point, but it was so good. Taron Egerton was nominated, didn't win because he was up against Stephen Yeun, but the series itself didn't even get nominated for limited series, which is a bummer. Really? So I was glad to see some sort of recognition go towards this. I know it had picked up 1 Emmy at the Creative Emmys for like cinematography, I think. So Paul Walter Hauser was pretty unanimous of a choice as far as different projection websites that I saw. So I was glad to see him actually get the job done here at the Emmys.
Yeah, I think it's still on my list. It's still on my Apple TV Plus watch list. So
it's a quick 6
this
episodes
time last year, or
when did it premiere? It came out July 8th, 2022. So yeah, it was
the Emmy cycle's so weird. I can't keep
it was like because I remember when I watched it, I was like, this is gonna be a battle for, it was like right after the deadline. So it was like a battle for it to stay in contention for the Emmys in the window of like when they would have been in September of 23, and then you delay it. And it's like, man, we're almost 2 years removed from this show.
Yeah, that's nuts. Well, you know, I'm happy for you. I'm happy you got that win because I'm not familiar with it obviously still. So, but yeah, limited series, as you pointed out, Beef. There was absolutely no surprise in any of those categories that it won. You know, directing and writing and whatnot. So props to them, obviously. But speaking of no love, you said Blackbird didn't really get too much or of anything outside of Paul Walter Hauser, and then as you mentioned the I believe it was cinematography last week. Two of our favorites, one of us more than the other, I would say. Ted Lasso and Barry both went out seasons 3 and 4 respectively, and no real huge wins, at least none last night, obviously. We know that last week when they did the guest performances, Sam Richardson won for outstanding guest actor in a comedy, and then he got outstanding original music and lyrics as well for Ted Lasso.
Shout out Ed Sheeran writing us a new song for Ted Lasso season 3.
Oh man.
Wait, so what does that put Ed Sheeran on the EGOT track? Definitely an EG, so we need to get him an Oscar and a Tony.
God, I take some hope in that I don't think he's ever going to win an Oscar.
He could write a song for something,
or a Tony for that matter. But he's got half of an EGOT, I guess. But and then Barry suffered even worse. They only got 1 Emmy, and that was last week, I believe, for outstanding stunt coordination for a comedy series. So, which was very well deserved, I would say. I mean, they have some very impressive stunts in that show. But gosh, it's hard to believe that Barry, I feel like in particular, because Ted Lasso did get plenty of love earlier on in its run. Just Barry, I think part of it was getting stuck against Ted Lasso, you know, going head to head.
Well, because Bill Hader had
out
won.
Of its shadow.
Bill Hader had won an actor Emmy prior to Ted Lasso for Barry, but never got any love for any of his writing or directing, I don't think. Definitely not in this last season, which was put up against this comedy. The comedy race this year was so stacked when you look at the 3 that we've been talking about: Ted Lasso, Barry, and The Bear, and then throw it. Like, it wouldn't have been the most deserving, but I would have been thrilled to see James Marsden win for supporting actor for Jury Duty. We were talking about that a couple weeks ago when we were talking about our favorite TV shows. Like, Jury Duty was a delight. But you know, that comedy supporting actor and just comedy as a whole was just a cutthroat race. So I know we were talking about an interesting hypothetical for all the people who were, you know, claiming category fraud for The Bear, wanting it to be a drama. If The Bear were to be out of the picture and we could have actually had a showdown between Ted Lasso and Barry, that would have been a really fun race to watch, and definitely would have had a little bit less predictability, because I think Ted Lasso's got like the brand name, winning the last 2 seasons, all of the hype around it, versus Barry being arguably the more deserving of the two, with a fantastic fourth season. We just talked about our top shows, and that was up there
Hey,
at the
it ain't arguable. It ain't arguable, Zach.
I'm saying it for my Apple listeners out there, but it would have been a cool race between like the big name and then the more deserving of the two, to see like how are they voting. Is it just going to be, we've heard about like some lazy Academy members that are like, oh yeah, it's comedy, I'll just mark Ted Lasso, versus like, oh, I've watched them and I have analyzed the two and have these thoughts and stuff. So we didn't get it because the Bear was there to win it all, but I think that would have been a really interesting race that hopefully with I don't know, we're gonna do it all over again in the fall with season 2 of Barry, because that's already in the books, and that'll be for this Emmy cycle in September. So assuming that stays comedy, I assume it's going to continue to sweep. I don't know what'll dethrone that, but like you said, at least drama will be back open for this next go round.
Yeah, yeah. It's we talked about this last night, or I mentioned it, that if it weren't for the Bear, as you said, it would have been very interesting to see how those categories would have shaken out, because neither of them, Ted Lasso or Barry, really dominated the conversation in the same way that maybe they had previously, I feel like, in their final seasons. I still think Barry was received better overall. But yeah, it would have been interesting, because at that point, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Abbott Elementary, I guess, could probably sneak through, and kind of, with them splitting votes, maybe. Like, Abbott Elementary is a very loved show, so I could see that being a
Abbott
little bit
last
better.
year, Abbott for season 1 took home a couple acting, not like Ted Lasso, and it like put a dent in Ted Lasso's armor and won some of the like acting noms, but didn't
Right.
win. Ted Lasso still won like the series, but
Yeah.
still
That's
had
crazy.
Quinta win this year. So that was one where Ted Lasso didn't have any dogs in the race for lead actress, neither did the Bear or Barry. So we're able to get a dub there and celebrate. So love to see that. But it's gonna be we're really gonna be running this back in 9 months from now, talking
Yeah,
Emmys all
man.
over again.
That's pretty bizarre. I mean, I guess we'll have to see. I feel like a lot of shows that are to come this year, their dates are like to be determined. So I don't think we really know for sure like what shows are going to be in the mix. But yeah, it'll be interesting, because we're definitely losing some big ones and some good ones with I mean, between some of the ones we mentioned, Succession, Barry, Ted Lasso. It's going to be, and other big shows that are new and have been winning or been around, at least, like The Last of Us, as you mentioned, or The White Lotus. They're not going to be qualifying for this next go around between now and September. So it'll be interesting. I mean, House of the Dragon, technically it did qualify for this round, and it just got totally ignored.
But they should be able to, I don't know what the rule is. We should probably look this up. I don't know what the rule is as far as how much of your season has to air like in the window before the deadline, because season 2 of House of the Dragon is summer 2024. So if it's early enough, it could if it's like, if we're looking at like May or something, it could make the cut before, I think July is like the
seems early. I don't
the
know.
window, but I don't know.
I think there was a rumor, I guess it was really from himself. Matt Smith said in an interview, I guess, that he was hearing, or he was under the impression, it wouldn't be out until August. So that obviously would make the cut, which would be pretty wild. I mean, that would be unfortunate. And it would be strange, because it would also put House of the Dragon, in terms of Emmys at least, right in contest, I would assume, with The Last of Us and The White Lotus next go around 2025. So it's gonna be interesting. But HBO, yeah,
It
they
is
don't
May
rebuild, they just
31st is
reload.
I think it's either May 9th or May 31st is the deadline for
Oh, they're not
entry.
making
So
that.
yeah, they're not making
No
that
way.
cut.
Wow. So next year gonna be really cool. But yeah, this year I'm not too sure. We'll have to wait and see. But overall, very happy to see Succession go out on top. Really, I mean, how much more can you say about that show? We've talked it to death, especially over the last year. And one of my favorite shows of all time. Sarah Snook finally getting her flowers, as well as Kieran Culkin, and I always love to see Matthew win another one. I tweeted this morning after thinking about it and seeing it that it's so ironic and funny that, and I guess it feels fitting that he won multiple Emmys while all the others won a single one, basically. Brian Cox did not win for Succession, which is kind of wild in retrospect. I feel like even for season 1, I could have seen him getting one, but I know Jeremy Strong won for season 2, and then Matthew himself won for season 3, and then this season they had the trio of winners there. So, but Brian Cox, I looked it up. He does have an Emmy from I think a TV movie or something he did years ago. So that's kind of cool that they all have Emmys. But yeah, I love seeing them go out on top. Jesse Armstrong, I mean, 4 writing Emmys, 1 for each season. I mean, that's I don't know if there's anyone else. I haven't seen
He
anyone
don't miss.
Yeah, he truly does not miss. Curious to see what he does next, if anything, or how long that takes for him to get back on the horse. But yeah, I mean, just super happy for that. And then, as you pointed out, more on the it got a couple acting wins, but on the quote unquote creative arts side, which I really don't like how they kind of frame that. But anyway, The Last of Us getting a ton of wins. I think it was 8 or something last week. That's promising, obviously, for the future, and I think it was very much deserving of a lot of those wins. Very impressive, production design and cinematography, visual effects, things like that, sound. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for that. And as we were talking about House of the Dragon, The White Lotus, it just got its cast together. They're filming, I think, next month or something. So yeah, TV. I'm more into TV than I ever have been, and I think part of that is Zach.
We love to hear it.
Making recommendations.
When I assign things for us to review on the podcast, and you have to watch it.
And we got some good TV, to talk about, I think, even the next, month or two. So yeah, this is a good closeout. Kind of awkward, weird that it didn't happen in the middle of January rather than its usual slot, but all's well that ends well, I suppose.
Absolutely. Congrats to all the Emmy winners. We love to see it. We'll be talking Oscars here soon enough. Award season never ends. And then by the time that wraps up, it'll basically be Emmy season all over again. So it's a never ending cycle, but we love it. We do it for the love of the game. But that's all we've got today. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for tuning in week in and week out. We appreciate all of the support.
Absolutely. Appreciate everyone tuning in as usual. It is kind of weird, the year. We've already started the new year, but this last year and a half of TV just got recognized. And so it's as you said, a cycle just keeps on going. But keep up with us. We got much more coming soon. There'll be a Fast and Furious, I think, with some newer releases that are around the corner. So follow on Twitter, Instagram, like us on Facebook, and subscribe on YouTube. You can find all those pages at Inside Film Room.
And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, YouTube, iHeart, anywhere you can find a podcast. We are there. And be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, The Rewind, so you can get everything sent directly to your inbox. And last but not least, be sure to come back next week, where we will be looking ahead at last to the year 2024 with our 2024 movie and TV draft. It's going to be a blast. We'll see you then.